Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's whoop, whoop. It's already started, folks. On today's episode, we have a special guest that will be sharing one of their past projects. We will let you decide if it was good or bad or just plain ugly. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment. My little badass gift to you. There's a saying by Jim Rohn that states, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." When I first started in real estate investing, I heard this quote over and over again at conferences and from coaches. I had to pause and really take a look at who my 5 people were. One in particular was a former coworker who, even though we shared many laughs every time we were together, she would constantly question my decision to leave my W-2 job. I know she meant well, but it began to wear me down. I knew I had to distance myself from the negativity and choose people that were only going to lift me higher. I do still get to see her every once in a while, but because I have a solid 5 in place that continually applaud my victories, it's much easier to brush off her pessimism. Now, on to today's episode. We have our first repeat guest, who is going to share another one of his past projects. He's done almost 100 rehabs. He's an expert at the BRRRR strategy, and he's a RAIN member. And I am grateful to have him in my top 5. So welcome back to the show, Bret Beaman. Woohoo! Do you like my sounds now? You got applause.
Yeah, I love it.
Isn't that pretty cool?
I feel like we're in a studio.
I'm like a junkie now with all these fun little toys. So
all these buttons.
So many buttons. So give us a quick background on you. Tell my listeners who you are, how you got involved in real estate, all that fun stuff.
Hey, yeah. So my name is Bret Beaman. I am from the Raleigh area. I've got real estate kind of runs in my family. My grandfather did stuff in real estate. My dad was a custom home builder. Spec home builder, had rentals, and it pretty much just kind of ran the family. I knew I wanted to get into it. And I really got the passion for it when I was in grad school. A buddy gave me a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that pretty much lit a fire under me. And for the last 2 years of grad school, all I wanted to do was get out and buy houses. And I bought a duplex as soon as I got out of grad school.
Awesome. And something big since the last time we spoke, you quit your W-2 job. You are Dr. Bret Beaman. So tell us how that went.
Well, yeah, so I was a physical therapist for a pretty large company in the area here, but I was PRN. And for those folks who don't know what that means or aren't in the medical field, that's basically stands for as needed. So they would, depending on the job or depending on the company, they might call you in if they need you. But for me, it was basically, I was paid hourly, and I was 2 days a week. And when COVID hit, they closed our clinic down, and they basically kind of deferred everybody, but they closed the clinic down, and everybody else that was salary, when they opened the clinic back up, all the salaried folks were going to come back in first and fill up their schedules, which is, weeks and weeks of patients being on for 40 hours. And that was last March 2020. And they told me to not expect to come back until maybe May or later, a little bit, probably later than that. And I didn't get a call from them until September, maybe October, really late in the year. And by that time, I'd gone full time into real estate.
So you're like, yeah, don't need you. Sorry. Peace out. Let's make this official.
Yeah. It's kind of how it went. But, I loved my boss. I still talk with her. And it was, I miss the people there. The people there were awesome, but I don't miss the work.
Yeah, definitely. Well, congratulations. That is a huge step. So you are going to talk about one of your past projects, and this one, you had some issues with contractors, I hear. So let's dig in. Tell me about the property. How many bedrooms, how many baths, square footage, etc.
All right. So this one was kind of crazy. We found it through our, I believe it was a cold call lead, and it's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. It ended up, so the guy told us it was like 1,300 square feet, something like that. And then when we went and walked the properties, we got under contract, went and walked the property, and it just felt so small. I mean, it was extremely small. And we looked up on the tax records and a few other places when it last sold. It was listed at like 1,150 square feet, something like that, really small. So that obviously changes our numbers at the end, what we can sell it for. Because if it's a certain size, you can sell it for a certain price. If it's smaller, it's not going to sell for that same price. And we actually renegotiated with the guy and got it for a better price. And then during the rehab process, we had 2 different flooring companies that we were kind of comparing prices on. Both of them came back at over 1,400 square feet worth of flooring.
What?
Yeah. And you gotta watch flooring companies out there. I'll tell you this right now. You gotta watch flooring companies, because if they go out there and they measure and they're not reputable, then your 1,000 square foot house might come back needing 1,600 square feet worth of flooring, and that's them just trying to get you.
Right.
So once those 2 flooring companies came back with those really high numbers, we paid somebody to go out there and measure it. And the measure came back at, I believe it was over 1,400 square feet.
Wow.
So yeah, it's, I mean, we got the documentation to back it up now, but that was crazy.
That's bizarre.
So our after repair value of the house went up. We thought we could sell it for 170.
Well, first of all, what'd you get it for?
103.
103. Okay. And what area is this in?
It's in an area just outside of Raleigh. It's called Clayton.
Okay. Clayton. Gotcha.
Clayton.
Bought
it at 103. Thought we could sell it at 170. That measure came back, and our ARV jumped up $30,000. So it jumped up to 200,000.
Okay. So what were the estimated repairs when you got this property?
When we bought it, we were estimating to spend just under 31,000. It was like $30,900, and everything on the inside was cosmetic. I mean, we pulled out the cabinets, so it needed the kitchen cabinets were green, like 2 different shades of green. They weren't terrible, but they were just ugly, and we couldn't really salvage them. But we didn't have to move any walls. We had to replace a door, but interior paint, flooring, new vanities, new kitchen, new appliances, and a few touch-up patch things here and there. On the exterior was eaten up. It was that old masonite siding, which collects water and rots, and we had to replace a ton of that siding. So we added in to replace a bunch of the masonite and paint the exterior, and we needed a roof. And we were going to be right at $31,000 for it.
Gotcha. And how'd you finance this deal?
Private lender, 100% purchase and rehab.
Nice. Do you remember what the interest rate was?
Yeah, on this one we paid 12% interest.
Ooh, okay. All right. So what was the projected timeline?
So since everything was cosmetic, we figured it was going to take 4-5 weeks, because with here's a tip for you. Something you can do on these ones that are just cosmetic, where you're taking stuff out and putting stuff right back in. You can pay your painter to do the demo, because as soon as demo's done on those, then the painter paints. So the painter comes in, takes everything out, paints, and then you get people putting stuff right back in. So we thought it would be pretty quick.
Okay. And by the way, my painter would never do demo. So when you said that, it made me kind of giggle. But he's such a good painter.
Some do.
I know. All right. So I know this one had some issues with the contractor. So you have all this projected 4 to 5 weeks, just under $31,000. So what was the actual timeline? Tell us what happened.
It actually didn't take too long. So we bought it in August of 2020, and we only held on to it for about 12 weeks. But we bought it, and we thought it was going to take 4 or 5 weeks. I think it only added another 2 or 3 weeks to our process, but still, when we think about it, that doubles the time, and that's extra holding costs and everything else.
Sure. So what happened with the contractors?
All right. Well, let's talk. We got 4 of them. We got 4 of them that were problems on this one.
Okay, what trades?
2 painters, handyman, and then a general guy does like roof siding, windows, that kind of thing. So there is a local Facebook group that's like home improvement in our area, and people post on there all the time. Hey, I'm looking for somebody to do this. I'm looking for this kind of contractor. I need a plumber referral, need an electrician. I jumped on there and I was like, hey, we need a handyman, because we're trying to, some of our goals are to scale up, and we will actually need a couple of handymen because we use them before paint and we use them at the end of the job. Tried out this new guy, and he was okay for the first job. I mean, we used him on about 4 different jobs right around the same time. He was okay on the first one. I guess we lucked out on the first one's a good way to put it. On this one, we had to install a new back door. And when he installed this new back door, he did it wrong. So when you install a door, you put the frame into the opening, and you have to shim it. You have to make it has to line up exactly right so this door opens and shuts. This dude came in, threw the door up, threw some giant screws through the side of the door frame, which you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to hide the screws. Screwed it in wrong, and when you would open and shut this door, it missed shutting cleanly by more than 1/4 of an inch. Like it rammed into the side. And we could not for the life of us get him to fix that. We were trying out another new painter that we found on that same site. This woman was awful. Absolutely terrible.
Would she not do your demo for you?
No, we actually didn't. I don't think we didn't use her to do demo on this one, but she told us that she could do some of the other work that we need to do before paint. And she was supposed to reinstall or replace a couple of doors. Her guy took the front door off instead of the back door, and then had to put the front door back on and screwed the front door up to the point where we couldn't even use it. We had to get a new front door. When we got interior doors, they come in pre-hung. So basically you get the door and the casing and everything else around it, and it comes as a unit, and you just take it off and install the unit. She wanted to fight with us because she didn't know that it was going to be installing the whole unit. She thought we were just going to take the door off and then put the new door on, just screw on the hinges. We went through this with her at the site. But she was the worst. She was one of the worst contractors I've ever dealt with.
I do have to give you some kudos, though, because you hired a woman, and there are not many women in this field. So I do have to give you kudos for that, but I'm sorry that it didn't turn out for you, but continue.
Well, so we were painting most of the house one color, and then the bedrooms another color. She got the colors backwards. So we got into the house, and like the interior of the house was like this mintish green color, and the bedrooms were a gray. She did not paint the ceilings.
Ugh.
And when she painted, she sprayed the walls and got the wall paint all over the ceilings. And she kept wanting to be paid more and paid more and paid more. And we got down to, I guess, where the paint was supposed to be done. Like, she kept throwing us off, saying she's going to be done, she's going to be done, she's going to be done. She never was out there, never was getting stuff done. And she told me she wanted she wanted like 90% of the payment, because she said that 90% of the work was done. And we go out there and we look, and she'd only painted the walls. Wow. She hadn't done the inside of the closets. She hadn't done the trim. She hadn't painted the windows. She hadn't painted the baseboard. She'd literally painted the walls and wanted like all of her payment. So we had so many arguments and disagreements with her. So many arguments and so many disagreements with her that we ended up firing her. We needed somebody that could like fix the back deck, and she said she had a guy. And we get out to that back deck after her guy had been out there, and none of the boards were cut even. They were an inch off this way or that way. I mean, it looked like a kindergartner put it together. And she kept telling us, just work with me, I can fix it. Work with me, I can fix it. And we gave her numerous chances. And then, so I had a project manager that was managing the project. And he told me that he was like brand new at this time. He was like 6 months on the job, had never really done project management. And he told me that the paint looked okay. And so I told her that she could go ahead and do the exterior of the house once we had that paint color picked out. But before we could let her start on the exterior, I went and looked at the inside, and I was like, oh, this doesn't work. This paint doesn't work. This quality is not what we paid for. This is awful. And when we fired her, she wanted us to pay her for the exterior because we told her that we were going to use her for it, and she hadn't done any of the work.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah. So then I had to get my normal painter, because like I said, I was looking for another crew so we can keep two crews going at the same time. I get my normal painter back in to touch stuff up and take care of things. And that dude didn't even paint the trim or the windows. When it got down, I mean, his quality was terrible. We got to the day before it was going on the market, and I walked through, and it was terrible. It was not acceptable. I told the real estate agent that we couldn't put it on the market because I had to get him out here to fix everything. And what was really bad was that agent was showing houses to one of her buyer clients in the area and asked the day before if she could bring her clients through. I was like, yeah, it's fine. We're not done. And when they walked through, it was in that condition. Ugh. And that's really embarrassing because right. I want to put my name on a quality product.
Sure.
So that's what one. It's a two
painters.
Two painters.
Handyman.
The handyman. And then so we ended up having to replace a couple of the windows. And one of the windows. So if you looked at the front of the house, you had the front door. And then there was a window above that, like a second floor window. But when you walk in, that's an open area. Like there's a second floor landing. So the only access to that window above the door is with a ladder. And this was, I think, 3 days before closing. It took forever for windows to come in because of COVID. We were there making sure things were good 2 or 3 days before closing, before us selling it. And we got there, and the guy had left the window open, that window that you need a ladder to get to. And we didn't have a ladder, and it started to rain, and It was raining in the house. And I had to call him and tell him that he needed to come out there and shut that window. And I was like, well, he told me that he was like an hour away. I was like, I paid your guys to do this window and they left it open. What am I supposed to do? And he was like, well, just shut it. I was like, I don't have a ladder.
Wow.
So,
all right. So you've had these nightmare contractors in there. What ended up being your actual repair costs? You were at just under $31,000. So what did you end up paying?
So in the end, we ended up paying just under 42,000.
Yeesh. And
Yeah.
that was just for the paint and the windows. Anything else?
Well, so yeah, that one painter screwed us, and we basically had to have the interior painted twice. But then we also got busted on the HVAC system because every house we buy, we get the HVAC checked out just to make sure. And this one ended up telling us that, it looked good from the outside. It looked fine when you like look inside. So I'm not going to crawl around underneath the house. I'll look in the crawl space just to look. But we ended up having to replace the entire HVAC system, inside unit, outside unit, and all the lines, which was like an extra $6,500. So honestly, we only would have been over by about $3,500, $4,500. Which really isn't bad in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
It's like 12%, 15% over.
Mm-hmm.
But especially dealing with those contractors. So it wasn't terrible, but at the end of the day, it's probably going to answer one of your questions, what we sold it for.
Yeah. So you were estimating 170 at one point because of the square footage was all jacked up. But then you said because it was more, you were able to list it for higher. So what did you end up listing it for?
So then thought we could list it at 200. And
Nice.
then we were getting ready to put it on the market. I had an agent, the agent who listed it told me that another company had just recently put one on the market or was under contract to sell at 220. But it had a garage. So we put ours up on the market at 215. And because the market was so hot,
yes,
the houses in that area were gone in a heartbeat. Because it was so hot, we actually only got one offer, but the people had missed out on like 6 or 7 houses before this. So they came in at 220.
Nice.
So we ended up selling it for $50,000 more than our initial estimate.
Wow. And how many days was it on the market?
Like 2.
2. That's awesome. So congratulations on that. While you were under contract, were there any surprises like with the due diligence stuff?
No, because nothing major. Like I said, because we already taken care of the big things, the roof, the HVAC system, the appliances and everything were new. And it was a relatively new house. There were no foundation issues. So no, that was, a tree fell on the fence in the backyard. Surprise, surprise. A tree fell on the fence in the backyard. There was a windstorm that blew the fence gate off. So couple surprises with the fence, but I mean, it's not that bad in the grand scheme of things.
All right. So your numbers ended up working out great. So what was your total profit on this one?
Total profit on this one was right around 55,000.
Nice. That is awesome. So well worth putting up with the headache of the lady painter.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I would do that same rehab again. I would not hire that painter.
Yeah. So now that you've completed this project, what were your main takeaways? What are you going to do different with your other projects after this experience?
So this one was a major learning experience, not just for me, but like I said, we had a brand new project manager, and I was pretty much kind of letting him run this one. He has a rehab schedule that we've put together that basically you can check off as you go down the list. But the big learning curve here was me teaching him what was acceptable from contractors and what wasn't.
Gotcha.
And what I keep saying to him over and over and over again is that the project manager position could be renamed contractor babysitter.
Yeah.
Because that's what you have to do.
I hate babysitting grown-ass adults. So,
right.
Gotcha. So very good. All right. Well, congratulations on that. And you are still working with this project manager, and how's that going now?
Oh, he's doing so good now.
That's great.
So good now.
This is probably like the perfect learning experience for him where it didn't cost you a ton of money, but it was a headache. So it was just a nice, sweet deal for him to dig his teeth into and learn properly. So,
Yeah, so he was green coming out of school. He'd never done project management. He had done some he helped handle turning over some apartments at apartment complexes, but that's like paint, flooring, that kind of thing. I really don't think he had a whole lot of experience actually managing those contractors.
mm-hmm.
So he's been at this for about 6 months now, maybe 7, and he's grown a whole lot, and that's a huge bonus to me. Because he can go out to these properties, and when he's gotten to the point now where when problems come up, all it takes is a phone call or a video to me, and we handle this. Like this last week, we had an issue, and he went out to the property. He showed me a real quick video, and we handled it in 5 minutes over the phone. And that would have taken 2 hours out of my day, 2 hours out of my week to drive out to this property, look at what's going on, tell the contractor what's up, how to fix it, and then go back to what I was doing.
Right.
So I mean, it's easy. It's an easy decision to have a project manager
because time is money. So good for you. All right. The second half of the podcast, I like to share with my listeners what makes you a badass, and I use the acronym BADASS. So the first B in BADASS is book. What is a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
The first time I was on the podcast, I said Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. It's about basically taking ownership for everything in your life. If your life isn't where you want it to be, if your job isn't, if your career isn't, if your relationship isn't, everything in your life is your responsibility, and it all boils back down on you because you could have either done something different or you can do something different. That's still my number one book.
Awesome.
All the way around. But I'll throw another one out there that everybody says is Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
The Purple Bible for all the real estate investors out there.
Yep.
Yes, that book was the big one for me in the beginning as well. All right. The first A in BADASS is advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Here's the quote. Same one I said before, but was it your experiences or life is 90% or 10% what happens to you, 90% how you respond. Because that's literally it. It's if you don't control your mind, then your mind's going to control you. And if you ever get in those feedback loops, those negative feedback loops where something bad happens and you keep thinking about it over and over and over and over again, it ruins your day. So something that might have taken 10 minutes out of your day ends up lasting for 3 or 4 or 5 hours and ruining your day.
Yep. And it just occupies your brain, and it's insanity. So yes, great advice there. The D in BADASS is drive. What drives you to be successful? It's late in the day, folks. Our lips are, we're getting tongue tied here.
Biggest thing that drives me to be successful is that I can't be still. I can't, not just like energetically. I mean, I grew up with ADD, so I can't stop moving anyway, but I can't do nothing. Like if I look back on like a month or a year or 2 years, I can't be doing the same thing that I was 2 years ago. I can't be doing the same thing that I was a month or two ago. And I get this itch. It gives me anxiety to be in that situation. The last couple of months were actually really kind of bad with it because I know what I want to do. I know where I want to take my business, but a lot of the focus lately has been training my project manager and getting him up to speed and letting him go with things. And it's been it's kind of doing the same thing as in training the project manager, although we are training him on new things and learning and growing, but it's still kind of the same thing. And I know where I want to go, and I'm not making the progress towards that.
But you are setting things in place that are eventually going to be making the process a lot smoother and simpler.
Yeah. And I have to look at it that way.
Yes.
Otherwise I will drive myself crazy.
Right. All right, the second A in badass is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
So I have hired a mentor to help me set my acquisitions part of my business up. So with rehabbing properties, you market, you find them and get them, then you rehab them and you sell them. So we've already got the rehab part taken care of. I got somebody handling that. The agent's going to sell it. So right now we have marketing and acquisition. So we are setting up acquisitions in the companies to blow up our marketing and have an acquisitions person on staff.
Oh my gosh, I'm jealous. That's really what I want, because finding the properties, getting them under contract, that's just such the hard part of our business. I think that's the toughest for me. So congratulations on that. That's great. First S in badass is systems. What are systems you have in place to help you achieve success?
So a good one that fits with our discussion today is we have a rehab system in my company that I put together, where we have a checklist of what needs to be done before we buy the property, the day we buy a property, the demo, what happens between demo and throwing paint on the walls, and then what happens after you throw paint on the walls. And we have, my project manager and I are getting to the point where when we buy a house, he and I walk through it day one, and we mark things, say we're doing this here, doing this here, doing this here, this comes up, this is trash, this is trash. And he takes notes and puts it all together, and he implements that work. So basically he is in charge of putting my vision when we walk through this house, putting that into work. And that's the system that we have put in for our rehabs.
That's awesome. And the last S is success. So what does success mean to you?
Biggest thing with success is, like I said before, it's when I look at myself and my life and my progress, it's that I'm making progress. I'm not standing still. I'm not doing nothing. I don't want to look back and like a year from now and say that I'm still doing the same thing.
Awesome. And I doubt that will ever be the situation, being that I know you, I spend a lot of time with you. You are in my top 5. I am honored to call you friend. And I do appreciate you lifting me up at times. Well, not physically, but lifting my spirits. So tell the listeners, what is the best way to find you?
Easiest way to find me is social media, Facebook or Instagram. It's Bret Beaman, and Bret Beaman on Facebook and Bret.Beaman on Instagram. And our company is Triangle Homes and Rehab. Follow us. We do live videos and walkthroughs at a lot of our projects, so you can actually see our projects usually from start to finish.
Yeah, you're very good at that with all the live videos. And by the way, that's Bret with one T, BretBeaman. So check them out, everybody. That is all. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.